I never liked driving alone at night, but that night I had no choice. The suburbs outside Chicago were deserted by 2 a.m., and my headlights cut through the misty darkness like a knife. An old blues song crackled on the radio, but it didn't match the mood. It felt like it seeped out of the gloom. Everything around me was silent, except for the hum of the tires on pavement and the creak of the car as the road turned. I glanced in the rearview mirror. Long, empty highway behind me. No other cars in sight. I saw her from the corner of my eye, a slender figure in a white dress, standing under a flickering streetlight, thumb out. At first, I thought it was a trick of the mist, but as I slowed down, I realized she was real. She looked younger than 20, with long dark hair and eyes that stared straight ahead. The dress fluttered around her legs, even though the night air was still. I hesitated. Something inside me screamed to keep driving, but the night was cold and she looked frightened, so I pulled the car over and rolled down the window. She slid in quietly. "Thank you," she whispered, eyes fixed on the seat in front. She didn't give her name, only that she needed to go farther up the road. Her voice was soft, almost a breath. I started driving again. A strange knot of unease tightened in my gut, but I couldn't find the words to ask who she was. I kept my eyes on the road, but in the mirror I felt like I was being watched. We passed under an arch of rusty iron gates, the entrance to Resurrection Catholic Cemetery. She said softly, "This is fine, right here." My heart skipped. I slowed to a stop by a row of crumbling headstones. "Are you sure?" I asked, voice trembling. She nodded and began to step out. I was about to say something when I looked back. She was gone. The shawl she'd been wearing lay neatly on the seat, as if someone had just folded it. A cold dread washed over me. "Hello?" I called into the silent night. My voice echoed, shaky. The shawl still smelled faintly of her, something sweet, like vanilla. The air was still, except for a lone leaf drifting down from a tree. I stepped out, clutching the shawl around my shoulders, and looked around among the tombstones. Shadows loomed, and somewhere a night owl hooted. My heart hammered in my chest. "Mary?" I whispered, remembering the local legend of Resurrection Mary. Only the wind answered, rustling through the cemetery. Shaken, I slammed the car door and jumped back inside. The car was freezing cold. I cranked the ignition. The engine roared to life. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting to see her face in the back seat. But the back was just empty darkness. The road ahead was empty too. I tore out of there, heart racing, leaving the cemetery far behind. When I finally made it home, I flipped on every light and held the shawl tight. It was damp from the mist, but I didn't want to let it go. I grabbed my phone and called my friend Mark, who loved old ghost stories. "Mark, you won't believe this," I gasped. "I think I just gave a ride to a ghost." He was silent for a moment. Finally he said, "Resurrection Mary." My blood ran cold. "She died back in the 30s, he whispered. "They say if you bring her back to the cemetery, she goes home." I told him about the cold inside the car. Mark sighed. "You brought her home then?" He hung up, leaving me alone in the bright silence. I sat staring at the shawl in my lap. Weeks passed, and I still haven't seen her again. But every so often, I drive that highway at night. Whenever I pass Resurrection Cemetery, I grip the wheel tight and glance in the mirror, half expecting to see her pale face at my side. I guess I'll never know if it was real, or my mind playing tricks. All I know is that night changed me. Whenever the radio flickers, or a chill runs down my spine on that road, I remember I once gave a ride to a ghost. When my friend Rob and I reached the cabin, deep in the Maine woods, exhaustion crept in. The road from the highway had been rough, the sky hanging low with gray clouds. Inside the small stone cabin, we lit the wood stove and peeled off layers of boots and jackets. Outside, snow fell steadily, blanketing the pines and the frozen lake beyond. We were surrounded by silence. It was the kind of place where the radio signal died. miles back, and stories felt real. In the dim light, Rob drummed his fingers on the table, eyes fixed on the flickering flames. That first night we told jokes by the fire, to shake off our nerves. The wind howled outside, rattling the window panes. After a couple of mugs of whiskey, Rob grew serious. "Folks around here say some hunter went missing last winter," he said. His footprints just stopped at the lake shore. "They think it was the Wendigo." I shrugged, slicing jerky with my knife. "A starving crazy person, probably," I muttered. Rob shrugged too, but I thought I saw unease flicker in his eyes. The silence of the woods got under my skin. At midnight, I woke up with a start. Rob was sitting up too, listening. Outside the cabin door, a faint scrape sounded on the wood. I said it was probably just ice shifting. We lay back down, but I didn't sleep well. The next morning, we cooked breakfast in silence. I stepped outside to get firewood. The forest around the cabin was breathtaking, frost-laden pines and a thin mist above the frozen lake. Rob was quiet, staring out toward the woods. He murmured something about animal tracks. I joked it was a deer, but his eyes were on the trees. We decided to explore. Bundled in parkas, we trudged through fresh snow. Along the lake's edge, we spotted footprints in the untouched snow, 2 sets leading toward the shore, as if someone had walked aimlessly, then turned back. "Looks human," Rob said quietly. My throat went dry. The air was cold, and I caught the smell of smoke in the distance, though no fire was burning. We turned back toward the cabin. Every so often, one of the strange footprints would reappear on the path we'd come, always heading the same direction, toward the cabin. We both fell silent, nerves on edge. That night after dinner we sat tense, in front of the fading fire. Rob kept glancing toward the door. Then we heard it. Slow, deliberate scrapes on the cabin siding. My skin prickled. I grabbed the shotgun leaning by the wall. In the window I saw a shape, taller than a man, impossibly thin, standing in the shadows of the pines. Its eyes glowed faintly. It didn't move, just stared. Rob muttered under his breath, "It's a Wendigo." My heart almost stopped. "Let's just get out of here," I whispered. The thing didn't move, but we could feel its presence. Finally, Rob bolted back into the corner, away from the door. I didn't know what to do. Outside, the noise stopped. Only the howl of the wind remained. That night, neither of us slept. At first light, we decided to leave, but when I turned on the stove to pack up, Rob was gone. Panic surged. I searched everywhere. He wasn't in the cabin. The door was ajar. I stumbled outside and saw footprints in the snow, leading toward the lake, then vanishing on the ice. My breath hitched when I heard a distant howl, part human, part beast. I grabbed my coat and ran after Rob's tracks. The woods around us were silent, except for the wind in the trees. I heard that awful howl again, closer. Branches whipped my face as I stumbled, and my heart hammered in my chest. Suddenly, I burst onto the ice of the lake. Up ahead stood Rob, or what was left of him, frozen in place, eyes wide. Next to him loomed the creature, a gaunt, deer-like monster with antlers and hollow eyes. It let out a triumphant cry. "Rob!" I screamed, but before I could reach him, the creature turned and lunged at me. I ran blindly, crashing through saplings, breathing in icy air. Pain exploded in my side as I fell into a drift. Frost bit my cheeks. I crawled forward, hearing that heavy footfall behind me. My numb fingers found the cabin door. I burst inside and slammed it shut, just as the creature's howl rang through the woods. My leg throbbed, but adrenaline kept me moving. I limped inside, slamming and locking the door. Rob was gone, taken by the Wendigo. All I could do was huddle by the fire, shotgun in hand, praying it wouldn't come back. Dawn found me shivering on the floor. I had managed to send a desperate call on my radio, and by afternoon a rescue team found me. They searched for the creature, found nothing. Rob was never seen again. The authorities said it was too dangerous to stay. I left the forest behind. But sometimes at night, I still dream of those glowing eyes. The Wendigo waits in those northern woods, and I know better than to wander there again. I never believed the ghost stories they told freshmen during orientation. A 2 a.m. blizzard in January changed all that. I was studying alone in Sterling Library on Elmwood University's campus. The library was nearly empty. The group of friends I came with hours ago had already gone. I was typing my final paper by the pale glow of a desk lamp in the back stacks. Outside, wind rattled the windows and snow swirled against the glass. The warmth and quiet made me drowsy, but I pressed on. A bit of adrenaline kept me going. Around 2:30 a.m., I packed up to leave. Sterling's old oak doors creaked as I pushed them open. I glanced at the clock, just before closing time. The hall outside was empty, except for the echo of my boots on tile. I headed toward the science wing to grab my coat, but as I walked, I heard a faint rustle behind me. Perhaps a stack of books falling. I turned. In the aisle between the shelves, I saw a flash of white. My heart lurched. A young woman in an old coat was walking on the far end of the stacks. When I blinked, she was gone. I hurried toward where I'd seen her. "Hello?" I called softly. Only the wind answered, whistling through a cracked window. I carefully examined the nearby tables. Empty. On one chair sat a purse I didn't recognize. I picked it up. Inside was a student ID, Lucy Emery. The photo showed a quiet-looking girl I vaguely remembered hearing about, a freshman who vanished from this library years ago during finals week. My breath caught. I left the purse on a nearby table, unsettled. I needed to get back to my dorm. The campus was ghostly and deserted. I trudged toward Winchester Hall, the old red-brick dorm with peeling ivy and flickering lights. My phone had died, and my key was back at Sterling. I pounded on the locked door and yelled, "May, it's me." Then I heard it, a soft, tinkling laugh from above, a childlike giggle distorted by static. I looked up. Winchester's top floor had been sealed after a fire, years ago. In the window sat a pale girl, knees pulled to her chest, wearing that same shabby coat from the library. Her eyes met mine and she smiled, then slowly faded into darkness. I banged on the door harder. After a moment, a groggy voice called, "Relax, Jake. I'm opening up." It was May, my roommate. She let me in and pulled me inside. I was shaking. "May, I just saw." I stammered. She cut me off with a smile. "You mean Suzette? She was our RA last year, who died in a car crash downtown. People say her ghost still checks on Winchester sometimes." I stared at her. Suzette Allen's death had been all over campus news, but I never believed in ghosts. May wrapped a blanket around me. "Let's just go to bed," she murmured. The rest of the night I hardly slept. Every creak in the old dorm made me bolt upright. In the morning, sunlight and piles of snow looked entirely normal. I haven't stayed late in Sterling Library since. And sometimes, when I walk past Winchester Hall at night, I look up at that top window. If the light is just right, I swear I can see a pale girl sitting there, watching students walk below. Maybe one day she'll wave goodbye. Until then, I'll keep my wits about me whenever I'm alone on campus after dark.